Oh, Pearson gets into the 95 of Bolts. Here comes the caution.
Flag is dropped here at Daytona, and away we go for the first time. Nicholas Morcel, Sean.
Looks like most get through unscathed. Look at that, there's Reed Gibson. A big move at the inside line of Dom's, possibly a little bit of contact.
Up now as we've got three wide action going through turns 1 and 2.
And they're underway. Eric Hahn takes a nice jump. Wilson hasn't let him go very far.
Go out here for Circuit Spa Francorchamps. Alex Johnson's off to a brilliant start there.
See just how oddly shaped this one is. We saw in the background Eric Hahn go for a bit of a swing, and he's gone and he's over.
New stuff. Cody Graham's the one-on-one up into second place. Alex Johnson 6/10 lead at the moment.
They're dicey up front. There's Andrew Kessel, Justin Sang.
They are ready to go. The lights are out, and away we go for the very first time here at Hotlanta International Circuit. Finley Fitzsimmons. Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to the fourth round of the Velocity Racing League Cup Series here in 2023. And my name is Mason Heimbaugh, joined alongside me, the legendary Australian Gareth McAllister, bringing you the action here today with Team Goon Squad, 1080p 60 frames a second as we gear up for the Hotlanta 250 right here at Virtual Atlanta Motor Speedway. Folks, I hope you all are ready for the action here today as drivers begin their qualifying and get themselves ready for the start of today's action. Gareth, it's going to be some exciting racing that we have here today at the 1.5 mile track. And given that we are also going to see drivers utilizing the Gen 4 car, which was just added to the iRacing service not too long ago. So drivers are all going to be, well, kind of experiencing a different drive this time around. And from what I was already hearing behind the scenes before we got started in practice is that things are going to be a little dicey for a lot of drivers. Tire management is going to be absolutely critical here. So Gareth, I mean, what do you think is going to happen given just the circumstances that we have going into tonight's race?
Well, first of all, g'day everyone, and g'day Mason, but yeah, I think that it's going to be quite an interesting event we've got here tonight. There's a lot of differing new sort of factors in play, like you said, with the Cup car, and with no one really knowing exactly how it runs. I mean, it only got released, I think, this morning, so, I mean, it's going to be a show, I guess is the easiest way to put it. You know, when you're running around about 200 miles an hour, I've done that before, Atlanta Motor Speedway, and it's the old version, it's 2008 version as well, so, you know, 1.54 miles, 163 laps, it's going to be dicey, I reckon. It's going to be a lot of learning curve and potentially a few cautions, but I think towards the end of the day, these drivers are going to feel what's underneath them and get used to it.
I gotta agree with you there, Gareth. And as we're getting a good look of some drivers taking some laps around here, getting some lap times in, we start to see who is going to be at the front of the grid today. Aaron Smith with an impressive 30.20 as his best time here in the lean, mean yellow banana in the number 70, going to be at the top of the timing tower. And also a newcomer, one of the newcomers here in the Velocity Racing League Cup Series, Justin Krasinski, coming over from Team Goon Squad itself and trying his hand here at the oval racing here with the folks over at Velocity Racing League. So great to see a familiar face over here in one of our broadcasts, and great to see Justin out here for the first time, I think, during this season. So going to see what the number 2 is going to have to offer for this field here today as we get a good look at Matthew Fitz, the number 6'9", getting into the wall, coming out of turn number 2 there. The Turbo Z going to come to a stop just on the back straightaway there. Here is a Nathan Gutierrez, the double excuse me, not the 00, the 07 machine, going to come in at 4th place with a 3:0.34 as his best time here. And I think, Garrett, that's going to conclude our qualifying here for most of these drivers, as there's not currently anyone else out on track. So I think that might be it for drivers wanting to come out and put down any sort of lap times here, and just under a minute remains before we kick things off here for the first time.
Yeah, I think I counted around about 23 trucks in the garage area tonight. So there's plenty of drivers out there, just a lot of them choosing to not qualify for this one, possibly wanting to start in the back of the field and get used to the car that's underneath them, especially if they don't have a whole lot of confidence or experience with this new car. I can completely understand and sympathize with that. But, you know, as we said earlier, it's going to be a great race because there's a lot going on. 28 degrees of banking in these corners. It's the most steeply banked 1.5 mile track in America. It opened in 1960, which is a very long time ago. Reconfigured to the quad oval, though, as late as 1998, I believe. So a little bit longer, a little bit higher banking than there used to be. And yeah, we should be in for a really good one as we get ready to roll through the grid.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and get started through our starting lineup. Up in the front row, Aaron Smith and Jaden Hopp, with Tony Hillebrands and Nathan Gutierrez taking up the second row. Scott Shire, James Miller in our third row. Michael Keithley and Sean Williams taking up the fourth row here today. Jeffrey Fisher and Charles Jurek going to be in our fifth row. Justin Krasinski and Howie Briss taking up the sixth row here. Surprising to see Howie Briss so far back here, the 2022 champion. Going to see what he can pull off here today at Road Atlanta. But moving ourselves a little bit further down the grid, Jason Tamer, James Coulibaly going to be in our seventh row. Matthew Fitz, Tom Mercia going to be in our eighth row. Nicholas Lovell, Nicholas Corcel, the two Nicks going to be right side by side here with Benjamin Lacey and Logan Jones taking up the 10th row. Patrick Colby and Michael Ashmore in our 11th row. Thomas Sewell and Howie Detray in the 12th row, rounding out our field here today. Gareth, why don't you go ahead and kick things off here for the first time as we await for the field to set off and get things going here for the first time as we await for the pace car to make its way, and just about 30 seconds until we see the pace lap begin here for the first time.
Yeah, that's Aaron Smith in that yellow banana really showing class of the field. And we're used to seeing him quite high up in the standings, so no surprise to see him quite high up there, especially starting on pole, but more of a road racing extraordinaire than the typical oval racing that we've seen and that we're going to see here tonight. So it should be, well, we should have a lot of differing strategies, as it looks like someone missed the grid a little bit there towards the front of the field. So there's going to be a free spot on that outside line for every single driver, I believe, as we get ready to send them on their way. But interesting point of note here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Oh my god, I almost did it again. It was the opening scenes for Smokey and the Bandit #2 were filmed here, and I personally don't know Smokey the Bandit very well, but I know it was a very popular. I know it by name, so obviously it's popular enough. I believe there were movies. I know it well enough to know that it's not a TV show. I'm pretty certain of that. And but the more interesting thing is, former U.S. President Jimmy Carter actually worked as a ticket taker back in the day, and then attended races here as well when he became said president. So that's pretty cool, and I'd love to see more little interesting facts like that to more places we go to. But we're going to get ready to send them off, like you said. And I believe, are we going to go around one more lap, or is the pace car going to hit? Yeah, we're going to go around one more lap, I think, unless we're coming to the green right now. It's going to be...
We are just coming out of turn 4.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, the building was in the way. As Aaron Smith gets the green, and he's going to take us out. So Aaron Smith with a nice lead. Jaden Hopp not too far behind us. He's on the outside. James Miller with no one underneath, so he's going to be able to take that spot. Tony Hilbrand's falling in behind as well as they fan out. Everyone side by side, a little bit further back, but for the moment, it's mainly single file up here in the top 6 or so, as it looks like Fisher is going to be the first one who was thinking about side by side with Sean Williams, and there's a very close battle there with the two of Justin Krasinski and Howie Briss. They're going to be side by side heading all the way through lap 1, and right ahead of them is Charles Jurek, who they were thinking about going 3 wide, I reckon, for a second there, but decided against it, pulling back in line. Probably a smarter move on their part.
Very good racing so far out of the gate. Lap 2 of 163, the second lap of a very long race for these drivers here at the moment. Taking a look at the 10th place driver of Howie Briss in the number 97 machine, as there starts to develop a little bit of a battle up in the front, with the leader at the moment, Aaron Smith, getting a little bit of action from the 09 of James Miller as he works his way down through the inside and up ahead of that number 70 machine. And down the back straightaway we go. A few drivers you can see lingering in the back in the midfield, where drivers trying to take things too wide and so on and so forth. And it looks like we've got even a few drivers already taking things down into pit road a little bit early here as well. Some early issues here at the very beginning of today's race. Nathan Gutierrez going to be one of those drivers, but drivers that are quickly moving themselves up the field here, or maybe not so quickly, but trying to keep themselves in the mix of things. James Miller currently the highest mover and shaker, having moved up 5 positions from where he started today. So Miller on a very, very good run here, but Tony Hilbrand's trying to keep himself here in the top 3. Aaron Smith trying to keep himself from moving down any further than what he's already had. But Gareth, I mean, like we already kind of talked about a little bit earlier, is the fact that drivers were talking a little bit about how this car will be difficult to maintain tires for after a certain period of time, and it's going to be a very long and difficult race, I think, for a lot of drivers who, again, maybe it's not exactly a whole brand new car. It's not like it's a, you know, going from racing with these ARCAs to a GT3 or a Formula 1 car. It's definitely not anything like that, but it is a step up. It is a generation up of what they were driving before, and I think that might be just a little bit of a learning curve here for some drivers, but I don't think it'll be too much of a big factor. But also, I think, Gareth, the biggest factor that we're going to have to look out for is that new tire model. Given that this car was released quite literally this morning, it might need a little bit of tweaking here and there to make it just right, if you will. Yeah, from what we've heard, that the tire model is maybe not quite ready for the amount of power that these machines have. It's essentially, it's like a ARCA car that we were using before, but it's unhinged. So it's unlike the old car, used to be limited to around about 8,000 reps per minute, and these things can climb all the way to, I think, about 11 or 12,000. So there's a lot more power to be put out from these machines, and they're about the same amount of loose. So it's definitely going to be a challenge with all of these drivers coming into this race tonight. But so far, it's been a great battle up front as James Miller and Aaron Smith continue to be side by side, as Smith now takes the bottom line and takes the spot away from James Miller. But yeah, Hilbrands is right there, right behind him as well, just watching this battle unfold and potentially waiting in the wings to make his own move in the near future. But like you said, tire wear, that is definitely going to be the biggest ticket of the day, as if you can keep those tires underneath you for as long as you can, especially if we have a lot of these long green flag runs, which it looks like we're going to be seeing, that will definitely play a huge factor. Absolutely, and as we're taking a look at the battle for the lead at the moment, we are also getting a look at the in-car camera view of the number 92 machine of Tony Hilbrands, bringing that picture-in-picture back to the broadcast here, at least as much as I possibly can here throughout the 2023 season. I know that it is something that isn't really done a whole lot in the iRacing broadcasting space, so definitely something I would like to bring to you folks at home who watch, and just to give you guys a little bit more action, a little bit more, well, stuff to look at while you're watching the broadcast here with us and enjoying the show. But right now, just taking a look at that in-car camera view with Tony Hillbrands in the number 92, and taking a look a little bit further back here, we've got some action forming up between Charles Jurek and Jeffrey Fisher, battling for the 5th place spot here. So Fisher trying to work his way into the top 5 and see what he can pull off here today. And folks, everyone that's tuning in here today, I want to thank each and every one of you who is all tuned into here already. Michael Ashmore, Don Hillbrand, Pete Parabola, Marcus Regal, Lisa, all of our usuals. Thank you all for tuning in here once again today, and hopefully everyone is enjoying the action so far. As, I mean, Gareth, things are looking fairly steady, fairly calm at the moment. I mean, it's still early in the race. Anything can still happen here, but I mean, with drivers all talking about how tire wear is going to be a huge factor in today's race with this setup. And now I just want to quickly iterate for those of you who may not know, this is a fixed setup league, so drivers are all using the same setup, the same car. It all comes down to skill at this point. So I mean, Gareth, what's your opinion? What do you think is going to be what do you think is going to be the move here to be successful in today's race?
Well, like you said, the tire management is going to be the biggest thing, and I know we're talking about it all the time, but you know that that as Koulibaly had a little bit of a moment able to keep it underneath him, so great job from him. But yeah, I think that you know the old moniker that I learned when I was starting to run with some of the guys in NASCAR, not that I can run anywhere near this fast, they used to say to me, slow in, fast out. And I can tell you, Mason, it took me a very long time to get used to exactly what they meant, because of course you're going to go slow into the corner and fast out. That's normal. But you know, it's basically about managing those tires, and the more you can get the car sort of rotated and dialed in before the corner and not getting on the power until you're actually pointed in the correct direction, is really going to have a huge impact on just how much more tire you can save than others around you. As it looked like Hillbrands, as once again, you know, we've seen Hillbrands do this a couple of times where he's got great short run speed, but on the long run his tires fall off a little bit more than others, and Charles Jurek is trying to exploit that to his advantage right now.
Yeah, absolutely. We're seeing right now the short run speed of a lot of these drivers at the moment, and what we're going to be looking out for is that long run speed and how it's going to affect these drivers over time. We're right smack dab, I wouldn't even say even in the middle, as we've got 3 wide action here between Lacey, Fisher, and Tamer. Going 3 wide, one's in the grass. The number 7 of Benjamin Lacey takes it into the grass, gets back on track, and almost collides with the number 9 of Colby, or excuse me, not Colby. I think that was the 62 of Tamer he almost made contact with, as the 06 of Fisher gets loose out of 2 on the back straightaway, makes contact with the bottom wall. No caution coming out from it, no danger to any drivers at the moment, but wow, what a strange incident to be in here for Jeffrey Fisher. He's going to limp it back down into pit road, as we've starting to see some action develop here for the number 8th place driver of Sean Williams, as Michael Keithley and Justin Krasinski start to have a little bit of a battle here for 9th place here at the moment. And I'm trying to recognize what that is on Michael Keithley's car. Is that Gundam?
I think it very well could be. It's green, which is interesting because Gundam is usually white and red, but I think it is. It looks like it. From what I can see, it does look like it's Gundam, so you could be right there.
I think it might be, but either way, either how, great racing between all of these drivers here. And actually, I want to take a moment to ride on board, get a little bit of a better picture here from the inside of one of our drivers, and just get a little bit of a better look here at what it's like here in Atlanta with these Gen 4 cars. Again, not really a whole lot going to change. These cars were originally used between the 1990s and I think the latest they were used was 2007 before they were phased out for the new cars that are raced today. So, with that being said here, this is kind of the era of, little bit loose there, coming out of 4 for Michael Keithley. Very good job keeping it together. You can hear that throttle come up there just a little bit to let that car settle back down and get right back into it. But this is the era of car, the generation of cars where we've seen legends like Dale Earnhardt take many, many championships. Tony Stewart, I could name them all, but frankly, that's not what we're here for. We could do a history lesson on NASCAR, but I frankly don't know enough about NASCAR to do a whole history lesson on it, but I do appreciate everything that has happened. All of the development, all of the, well, how history has progressed with NASCAR and all of its subsidiaries since then. It's just fascinating to me. The history of motorsports, as we've got trouble here. Oh boy, Hilbrands with a bit of a moment. Gareth, right now it seems like turn 2, the exit of 2 and 4 seem to be rather treacherous and only seeming to get worse here as time goes on. I would almost have to imagine that some drivers may be wanting to come down into pit road a lot sooner than what we may have expected here.
Yeah, it definitely seems that way. As our fuel window is 40 to 45 laps. We should have mentioned that a little bit earlier, but yeah, we may see a few drivers decide to come pretty early on, maybe as early as lap 30 even, trying to get 4 fresh tires on their vehicles, as you can see how loose it is, especially out of 2. Now, I think the reason why it's so loose out of 2 as opposed to 4, give me a second here, but I think it may be due to the fact that when you're coming out of 2, you've got nothing but a wall right on your outside. Whereas there you go, there's another problem just in front of Tony Hilbrands. I believe that was Scott Shire. I believe that's him. Yes, it is. So he had a bit of a moment as well out of 2, just like we were saying. Whereas out of 4, I think you've got a little bit more space on exit, as the course does sort of come out into that nice, a bit nicer, not having, it gets a little bit into the back is Michael Keithley, and Michael Keithley passes Scott Shire there. I believe there was a tiny bit of contact, but thankfully nothing too bad getting involved in that. But, you know, as you were saying earlier, Mason, a big shout out to these drivers getting a lot of their vehicles painted within only, less than 24 hours, really, getting their vehicles painted the way they were in the old car that we were looking at.
Yeah, and it's phenomenal to me to see how quickly these guys can turn these cars around. From what I understand, these cars are pretty much identical chassis-wise and so on and so forth, so I think that the pit crew is essentially able to kind of just slap on the old vinyl from the other car and just make it work with the new one. It's pretty plug and play in that sense, if you will. But folks, I hope everyone is able to hear us okay here. Hopefully everything is stable for everyone watching at home. We're kind of experimenting here in the booth with this technology here, but hopefully everything is smooth and everything is viewable for everyone watching at home. But that is neither here nor there, because the racing is still happening. It is still phenomenal here, as right now things are settled out towards the top 5, where the action is really starting to develop. However, is here in the midfield, the top 10 at the moment, as Michael Keithley, Benjamin Lacey, as well as Tony Hilbrands, oops, that is a little too far, and Scott Shire have a little bit of a bout here, and I think that was Benjamin Lacey that was getting into the wall there. Big contact into into the wall. And thank you, Don, for that bit of information. I had that feeling that was the case there, but I'll continue to work on that and see if we can improve that over time. Anyway, Gareth, this is fantastic racing between these, well, almost 3 drivers. If Keithley is able to stay in that draft and kind of reel these 2 in, he might be able to do so here. And we are kind of, I would almost have to imagine, getting out maybe halfway, if not a little more than halfway here for our tire wear. Actually, might even be surpassed that here, as our fuel window is only 40 to 45 laps. So only about 10 to 15 laps before we see drivers needing to come in for fuel. So definitely starting to see that tire wear affect a lot of our field here, Gareth.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. Now, we thoroughly suspected, both of us here in the booth, that tire wear is going to be much more of a factor than fuel. But you know, even though you can see a lot of drivers darting around and having problems with tire wear, it's almost seeming to be, if you can keep that car underneath you, that tires may not be as huge a factor as we thought. They might have to come for fuel before the tires actually give out. So that would be interesting to see if that's the case, but it's definitely fighting the car all the way through until that happens, as we continue to watch the 92 of Tony Hilbrands. And just in front of, you can see a lot of cars getting up close to that wall and deciding to duck down pretty early on as soon as they get there. I feel like a lot of drivers are still trying to feel out these machines and not wanting to get too close to that outside wall, but for now, Jason Tamer is making the move on Tony Hilbrands and has made that pass to the inside. So Tony Hilbrands, again, one of those drivers that we're very used to seeing near the top, but always has a short run sort of a pace, and that is definitely not playing into his favor now as we're 32 laps into this run.
And right now, Jason Tamer, the number 62 machine, is trying to get a little bit of distance between himself and Tony Hilbrands. You're taking a look with Benjamin Lacey in the number 7 on the bottom right-hand side of your screen with the in-car camera there. So getting a look on board with the number 7 driver. But at the moment, towards the front of the field, however, we've got Justin Krasinski starting to put a bit of pressure on the rear of Howie Briss. At this moment, the number 97 machine are starting to see quite a bit of pressure here. I know it looks, those of you that may be able to see it, the paint schemes might look a little bit different here between the 2 camera views, and I do apologize for that, but I assure you they are the same driver.
Well, I mean, that's just, we'll roll with it. That's fine. I love the picture-in-picture, and I'm sure the spectators do as well. We've got Dawn Hilbrands coming in the chat, saying or asking how many sets of tires there are. 5 sets of tires behind the wall, and that could be interesting depending on when we come out. I think that's why we've seen a lot of drivers stay out, because if we come in when every driver is supposed to come in for their fuel window, they're going to be using up 4 sets just as normal. So that really puts into perspective, like, you're going to have to get used to driving on rubber that is not in its ideal situation, let's put it that way. As it looks like the 73, I believe that is just rocketed. Oh no, that's Sewell, isn't it, in the 77? So he's come down pit road already. So that's why he has just rocketed past here as he's gone straight past the 97 of Howie Briss. And Krasinski, I believe, is coming down pit road as well. There are a few drivers coming down as we got 3 wide on the right hand side of your screen just for a moment there. And it is getting dicey up here towards just around the field, really. It's getting dicey towards the mid pack there.
Absolutely. And with Tony Hilbrands, Patrick Colby, and James Coulibaly all in a little bit of a bout here, it is phenomenal to see the action that is developing here on track at the moment. And currently with James Coulibaly making the best of it at the moment, getting away from these two drivers. And Tony Hilbrand's start, it really seems like he's really fighting this car at the moment. Let's see if we can get an onboard look here with the number 92 driver and just kind of take a ride on board here with a lap or two and see just, whoa, Colby up ahead in the number 9 machine. Hilbrand's having to slow down just a little bit. He's going to work himself on by. Coming out of turn 2 onto the back straightaway, Hilbrand's still fighting this 92 machine in those old tires, and I think Hilbrand's is probably begging his pit crew at the moment to get those tires ready. He's going to continue to fight them for a little bit longer, try and take it out these next few laps. Only about 5 more laps until we see the maximum here for our fuel window. But frankly, Gareth, I mean, with just how difficult these cars seem to drive after this long, after 40 laps, it really is going to have, I think, some serious implications on our race here today. James Miller, the 09 machine, going to make his way down into pit road and get himself a fresh set of tires as well as fuel here before to start his next stint.
Yeah, he's coming down from the 2nd position, and he's going to find himself way back there in the 16th place, as the top 15 drivers still are yet to make. Well, I say that top 14, Nicholas Lovell, has been down pit road before. I believe we're seeing that he's been down pit road. I'm not sure, actually. I don't know. It says that he has been, but it doesn't say he's got a time. So we're going to say that he probably came through maybe for a penalty or something of that nature, because it doesn't have a time, I believe, showing up for being in his pit stall. But we're going to continue to see these cars all come down pit road right at this moment, because we are 42 laps into this run. And Aaron Smith is still keeping it stable, about 2 seconds ahead of Jaden Hopp in 2nd for the moment. So he's looking pretty good right now. Lisa also coming in the chat saying that the 81 of Jaden Hopp, this was his grandpa's favorite track. So, I mean, certainly wanting to do his grandpa proud and doing a great job of that so far.
Yeah, I think it's definitely a good night here for Jaden here at Atlanta, and even for Aaron Smith as well, as we're still getting a look at drivers making their way down through pit road, just seeing where everyone is going to stack themselves up here once things are all said and done. And I do apologize if anyone's looking at the cars on either side of the screen right now and are just thinking to themselves, those look a little funny. We will get that fixed for future broadcast as we continue to work on that. But in the meantime, the numbers hopefully will stand out the most, and everyone will be able to see those as they are. But Aaron Smith now going to make his way down into pit road. So most of our leaders now going to have fully made their way through the pits, getting themselves a fresh set of tires and fuel. Scott Shire, Charles Jurek, Benjamin Lacey, all yet to have to come down into the pits to grab tires or anything along those lines at the moment. But we're still getting a good look here down pit road, and Aaron Smith is still waiting, and there he goes. He's out, and away he goes for the next time. And there's Tony Hilbrand's making his way into his stall as we're on lap 45 of 163 as our race leader Scott Shire crosses the line here. And I think this will probably be Scott's last lap before he comes down into pit road. And so far, it doesn't seem to be, Gareth, that we have a whole lot of major battles. Well, I take that back. Right as I tune here to Patrick Colby and Michael Keithley, they're side by side, almost touching wheels with one another as they come out of turn 2 onto the back straightaway. Gareth, there's still a few battles happening out of pit road, or maybe not necessarily out of pit road, but heading into this next stint of the race here today.
Yeah, the drivers are just getting used to the track, I think, and and the car as well, as you know, they make their way around the circuit, and there's a lot of figuring out to do here, as we've said at the top of the show as well. But I think that you're going to see a few battles, as we do have Jason Tamer, Patrick Colby, and Keith Lee just behind there as well. That they're all fairly side by side, very close together. But you're going to see this, I think, all night. You're going to have a small group of cars very close together, and then just these big gaps that we've been seeing so far. So unless there's a caution to bunch everyone up together, and of course we don't wish that, but if there is one, that will definitely make it a lot more interesting, as everyone's gotten, I would say, a lot more used to the car now since we've had an entire green flag run. It's looking pretty good though. I'm pretty impressed so far, and I've also just remembered right now as I've been talking that I forgot to ask Tony for some Sour Patch Kids. Now I'm gonna have to do something about that, and right after this broadcast, I promise Dawn in the YouTube channel right now, she can hear me if she's listening. I'm gonna right after this race is done, I'll send a direct message straight to Tony Hilbrand's inbox and get him to see if he can send some over.
Gareth, I think you might be right. Excuse me, I'm losing my train of thought here. I thought I was responding to Canis Majoris saying we need more cinematic cameras to kind of show the suspense of high-speed racing, and I was trying to send a message and say, you know, I would definitely like that, and I used to do something like that, but unfortunately, it just takes a long time to spend every single week for each individual track to make cameras and set it up here in iRacing. It just takes a tremendous amount of time, and I just simply do not have that time at my disposal every week. There are camera packs that are available, but not quite to what I would say are enjoyable, to say the least. But frankly, I think that it wouldn't hurt to try and find some cameras that would make things look a little bit fresher here. But we've got some battles happening up towards the front of the field with Aaron Smith and James Miller both duking it out here for the lead. Aaron Smith currently at the top of the pole at the moment, with James Miller just slightly behind, almost a full car length at the moment as they head back into turns 1 and 2. And Jaden Hopp also lingering here in the top 3 as well, starting to reel these two drivers in, at least trying to, as much as he possibly can, as we get a little bit of a ride on board here with the number 81 driver.
Yeah, certainly. Another thing to note is that Jaden Hopp and Aaron Smith both came in lap 42 and lap 43 respectively. James Miller, we did see come down actually lap 39, so just before lap 40. So his tyres are going to be worn just a little bit more, but that will continue as the runs keep going on. If he keeps on coming down around about the same, if all these drivers come down around about the same times, it's going to keep on extending the difference in the tyres, as Jaden Hopp has made his way around the outside of James Miller there. Thankfully, Miller saw him coming and allowed the 81 machine the gap that he needed to make his way through and make that pass clean, as it now is going to be a good battle up front. I'm very keen to see how this one turns out, as Hopp and Smith are about to go for a good battle. But another thing to say, I just want to point out to all our viewers watching at home, Mason is Team Goon Squad's resident tech guy. He's a very smart guy, and I wish I could be any kind of competence, any kind of close to being as competent as he is when it comes to technology. So when I hear that he's saying that the cameras take ages and it's very hard to do, I'm not even going to attempt him, I can tell you that right now, because if he says it's difficult, there's no hope for me.
You know, frankly, it's not even that it's difficult. It takes a lot of time and a lot of patience, to be completely honest with you. It's just one of those things where, you know, you have really two options when it comes to making cameras here in iRacing. You have the option of going through and trying to make them look like the real life counterpart as closely as you possibly can, And that can take granted, that might take a little bit less time because you have actual camera references in real life that you can use, and you can position it based on that. Or you can make up your own. Personally, I like to make up my own because they look a lot cooler, at least in my opinion they do, and you can get a lot more shots that you just cannot get in real life. There's just certain angles, certain places that you can stick a virtual camera in that you can just not do in real life, and you can just get these really cool, really wicked, awesome shots. But again, it takes a long time to do. And I'm a perfectionist at heart. I'm a very particular person when it comes to these types of things. So if something doesn't look right, if it looks even slightly jank, I'm not really going to be too fond of it, and it will take me sometimes hours, if not days, to get a product that I actually enjoy. Most of the time in the past, when I've tried to make my own custom cameras and things of that nature, it takes way too much time, way longer than I need to spend on doing those types of things. I think that for what I can get with whatever comes out of the box here is good enough for now. But again, I hope that one day we can find something that's a little bit better, a little bit more appealing, because trust me when I do say that sometimes the default cameras here on iRacing are a little lackluster and leave a little bit more to be desired. So trust me, I do hope that one day we can find something that suits well, I don't even have a word for it. I guess my level of
your expectations.
Production. Yes. Thank you, Gareth.
Yes, go with that. Just go with something. Just spout nonsense and everyone will believe you.
Just spout nonsense. Well, that's a good way to put it, Gareth.
Yeah, well, I mean, anyway, sometimes when your brain gets stuck on a certain thing and you don't know what to say, you just say a word and hopefully it works. And if it doesn't, then you can apologize afterwards. It's better than just having a blank, as I so often do. So I feel that there. As it looks like Jason Tamer is trying to go around Patrick Colby just in front of Scott Shire, who we're currently looking at. There we go. As Jason Tamer is... Now, forgive me if I'm wrong, but I don't know if I've seen this kind of pace out of Jason Tamer before. Tamer seems to have figured out this Gen 4 Cup car a lot quicker than some of the other drivers around, and is able to get that 62 machine moving and grooving, as my mum would say. But Scott Shire is now in front of Patrick Colby as well with a great move to the inside. So Colby's struggling with the rear end of that car. And these battles, because I gotta say battles, because Charles Jurek is right there as well with Patrick Colby just behind. They're side by side, and it looks like they're gonna be so for a little bit, as Jurek has made the pass on Colby. And Shire is trying to make the pass on Tamer. That's very close indeed, though, as Shire, you can see, gets a little bit of a bobble on that inside line, and Tamer has been working that outside to almost perfection, I would say, at this point.
Yeah, Tamer doing everything that he can to kind of stay in that mid to high lane, and Shire, I mean, he's staying true to his line and trying to keep it as consistent as he possibly can here. There goes Tamer all the way to the top of the track here, gonna stay as high as he possibly can, and still able to maintain the pace here alongside of Shire, holding on to his 9th place spot, as we just got that good onboard view here with Scott Shire. And you could see, granted, we couldn't really take a look of it as it was out the right-hand side of Scott Shire's view here. We might actually be able to pull something like that off here if you give me just a second here. We can kind of do some fun magic here.
That's so cool.
So
sorry to butt in.
We can't really get a good view of it now, as there he is. There goes Jason Tamer, the number 62, right on by here. And we just get a good look at the pace difference on the bottom lane compared to that top lane here, as Tamer continues to stay right on the outside of the number 4 driver, coming across the checkered line back into turn number 1 here once again.
Yeah, Canis Majoris is once again talking. It's talking about the movie Cars. I can't help but reference that because I love Cars. it was like probably my favorite movie growing up. You know, it took me, I don't know if I said this already on a broadcast previously, but you know, it took me a good, I don't know, 15 years. That's how sad this is. It took me about 15 years to realize that Owen Wilson was the voice of Lightning McQueen. I don't know why, like, now I see it easy, but I don't know why it took me so long to see that that was the case. It's just poor on my part, really, more than anything. As this would be really funny if you said to me that this is the first you're hearing of it. Or
Well,
did you know already, Matt?
I knew that Owen Wilson did actually voice. Oh God, I can't remember his Lightning McQueen. Jeez, Gareth. Jeez, can't do that.
We're doing well up here in the booth. We're doing well.
Well, I remember when that movie. Well, I do remember when that movie first came out. I was gonna say, I didn't get to watch it in theaters, but I did watch it on DVD, and I gotta tell you, I was hooked on that movie for a long time. I would watch that movie pretty religiously whenever I had the opportunity to. So, yeah, it definitely was something that was ingrained in my memory as a wee young lad. For my passion for motorsports and cars in general. So it was definitely one of those things that wasn't expected when I was a younger child, but here I am today doing a broadcast for virtual races. I think I've come for full circle here.
Oh, as full circle as you can get, I'd say. I mean, you know, Cars and what was the other? Did you ever watch Herbie Fully Loaded?
Yes, I did.
Oh man, those are the two films that really got NASCAR into my life growing up. But Hilbrand's underneath Colby there, and that is the battle for 12th position as we talk randomly about some movies. So they got to do with racing. It's fine. I didn't actually end up watching like Talladega Nights or oh God, what's the other one with Tom Cruise? That I've forgotten now. I didn't end up watching like those sorts of movies, you know, the non.
Oh,
the
Rush? Was it
non-animated
Rush?
Ones. No, Rush was the F1 film with Hemsworth.
Ah, yeah, that's right. Gosh, dang it.
No, it was before Rush. But anyhow, you know, there's a lot of racing movies out nowadays that are actually really good. Like Ford vs Ferrari came out not too long ago. That's a really good film. Not entirely accurate, but you know, a lot of films stray a little bit from what the accuracy is just to add a little bit more drama in there, make it a good movie.
Days of Thunder. That's what
Dawn
it is.
Hilbrand's coming in with the save. And I love Days of Thunder, man. Days of Thunder was one of my favorite films. I didn't see that until like 2018, but when I watched it, man, that film was amazing. And I don't know why people are so against Tom Cruise. You know, like, I've got this friend who is just so anti-Tom Cruise, it's ridiculous. Doesn't matter what film he's in. The new Top Gun, great movie. Didn't see it because he doesn't like Tom Cruise. I don't know.
Caution! Matthew Fitz, the number 6'9" machine, in trouble here. Just, oh boy, right on the entry of turn number 2. In a very unideal situation here for Fitz as he tries to get himself in the right direction here once again, trying to get that car restarted. Let's go ahead and take a look at the instant replay and see just how this one unfolded here for Matthew Fitz, but I have a feeling we are going to know exactly just how this one, yeah, all by himself, a little bit of a snap, also collecting James Miller. Yikes.
That's horrible. Miller was like, oh man. Miller was fighting, you know, Jaden Hopp and Aaron Smith for the top spots. So hopefully that doesn't impact him too much. But yeah, it almost looked like it snapped to the right weirdly. Did you see that as he went down into the banking of turn 1? Yeah, it just snapped to the right. A little bit too aggressive on the accelerator pedal, I'd imagine. And it just snapped to the right a bit. And thankfully, the brakes strong enough to keep that car from going down those 28 degrees of banking. So yeah, great job for keeping it stopped and not getting too much issues or too much damage. But yeah, and unsurprisingly, everyone coming down pit road right now.
Yeah, everyone's going to take full advantage of that time to come down into the pits under yellow, grab a fresh set of fuel, tires. It was getting to be about that point in the race again anyway, so pretty much perfect timing for this yellow flag to come out here. And frankly, Gareth, I mean, with how the racing has been here today, I'm really surprised that we're even seeing this yellow flag. I almost expected a full green flag race here. But that's also the spirit of racing. That's just how things happen to go sometimes. And with this being, again, a brand new car in the iRacing service, drivers are all getting themselves acclimated. I'm sure they're relatively comfortable behind the wheel at this point, but there's just things that they still have yet to kind of understand, or at least start to figure out with the new tire model, and just how this car starts to handle after a long run stint. Again, most drivers have that kind of almost locked down here. Maybe some drivers still kind of learning a little bit of quirks here and there, but for the most part, I think everyone is doing a phenomenal job here in tonight's race, Gareth, and I can't wait to see this next restart, as drivers are going to have another opportunity to get lined back up and have another start here once again. And with Aaron Smith and Jaden Hopp going to be up on the front row, Howie Briss and Sean Williams in the second row, and Nicholas Corcel and Benjamin Lacey in our third row, I think it's going to be an exciting start here.
Oh yeah, definitely. We're getting ready to see a great restart. As you know, you brought it up just before, but about seeing the yellow flag, you know, I was actually thinking the opposite, because I was thinking we were going to see more yellows with the whole, with all the factors that these drivers have to compete with the new car and this very high speed, mind you, 1.5 miles as well. And you can see just how loose everyone is. I thought we were going to get more cautions than we've seen so far, and I hope I just haven't jinxed the entire race from now. But you know, we're almost halfway in, and we haven't really seen a whole lot in terms of cautions, considering this is our first one. So I genuinely think that we're in for a pretty good race, as we have been so far, and it'll be good to see everyone really continue on their stride and get used to these cars. And you know, like you said, some people might be getting used to it at this track at this point, but you know, next week's a different story with North Wilkesboro. The rest of the season as well is going to really test out these drivers with these new cars.
Yeah, absolutely. And with the rest of the season to look forward to as well, I mean, it's a good thing that this car was introduced for these drivers earlier rather than later. I don't think there is really... I don't know if there's any sort of control or option to drive one or the other in the iRacing service. I don't know if this Gen 4 car replaced the old ARCA, or if there still is two versions of this car that exist on the iRacing platform. But I'm not going to get into details of that. I'm sure that there probably is two versions, but you can choose which one. But that's neither here nor there. Drivers are getting themselves ready to restart things here once again. But as I allude to here, we have a long season ahead and plenty of races for these drivers to get acclimated with this new setup, or with this Gen 4 car, and get ready for some more action here. Once again, as the green flag drops here for the second time here at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and we go back to racing here, as we've got some intense action heading into turn number 1. Heading out of number 2 onto the back straightaway, side-by-side action happening towards the midfield and beyond. You can see Scott Shire there going almost door-to-door with Nicholas Corcel. Tony Hilbrand's trying to get himself back up into the action here as well. You can see on the bottom right-hand side of your screen Benjamin Lacey's perspective there in 4th place at the moment, so you get the look from the outside of the top 3 looking in.
Yeah, that's looking like a real race as well. I'm surprised. I'm not sure what happened with Aaron Smith, because Aaron Smith took a huge jump on the restart and is now falling falling back fast into the third place position and into the clutches of Howie Briss and Benjamin Lacey as well. So not quite sure what happened to Aaron Smith there, but he had a huge jump, potentially getting a little bit loose, I would almost imagine, on those fresh tires, maybe using them a little bit faster than he wanted to. As we've got battles going all over the track, I won't be able to keep track of which one, because the yo-yo, we're focusing on the multi-car to try and show you the action as much as possible, and there are battles all over the place. So as, it was 3 wide, and Miller gets into the side of, I believe that's Patrick Colby on the inside. Thankfully, they're both keeping their own direction. They're 3 wide though. I believe that's going to be Tamer on the high side. Not sure where to go, as there's still 3 wide coming into turn 1. And Tamer goes really high, but he's going to have to drive off. Is he going to be able to be enough to be next to Miller? No. But he is going to continue that drive as he goes to the middle. What is happening as Patrick Colby falls back behind, as he doesn't have quite as much pace. And Miller and Tamer are going to be still side by side. And this action just keeps continuing as they get past the front straightaway once again.
Fantastic racing between these drivers at the moment as they continue their fight here for the 9th place position. And as we'll get a look on the inside of Patrick Colby in the number 9 machine on the bottom right-hand side of your screen, as these drivers fall back into single file action. And just a little bit ahead, you can see Tony Hilbrands and Nicholas Corcel also starting to duke it out here a little bit for that 7th place spot. Hilbrands trying to get himself back into the top 5 at the moment, as right now he's fallen down 4 spots from where he started at the beginning of today's race. So trying to make up some positions here as well, but a driver that's currently enjoying the action at the moment, I'm more than certain, Sean Williams in the number 89, currently at the top of the field, leading the pack at the moment. So going to have some laps led here for the number 89 machine today. And also Howie Briss back up here in the top 3 as well. So the champion continuing on his reign of consistency here with Velocity Racing League, just trying to keep that car in the top 5, in the top 10, anywhere in that neighborhood is going to be satisfactory here for Howie Briss. Again, as we talked to him before in last season, before rounding things out, that was his main goal, was just to continue that consistency, try and keep himself in those top 5s, in those top 10s, or even wins as much as he possibly can. But Gareth, we've talked about it many times before in previous broadcasts, is that wins don't always win you championships. It's consistency.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's all down to consistency. You know, you can win races here and there, and of course that's a huge help. But if you finish in the top 5 every single week, even if you don't get a win the entirety of the season, you're going to find yourself pretty high up there in terms of, you know, as far as the championship is concerned. So definitely nothing to sneeze at if you can't get yourself a win, but you can manage to finish yourself in the top 5s and top 10s. You're looking pretty solid throughout the entire season, as other people may get wins, but they may also have troubles on other tracks where they fall way down the standings. So that can always be a big thing, as we see here. That's going to be Jason Tamer on the outside there of the 53 machine of Michael Keithley. And Tamer, one of those people that we've seen a lot more drivers, I'd say, since we've gone back to green, using that outside lane. And I'm almost wondering if the outside lane is starting to come in and be a bit faster for these drivers, or they're just really struggling with a loose race car, and that's why they're driving it up the track a little bit as Tamer comes down in front. Oh, there was a bit of a bobble there from Michael Keithley, as Jurek also tried to throw his nose into that battle as well. So the 3 cars there pretty close together, as well as a battle up front, as it looks like Howie Briss is trying to make his way around Jaden Hobb, but unable to do so. But But yeah, you know, we as I've said before, you know, we have speeds of around 200 miles an hour, and pit road speed, mind you, we haven't mentioned that yet tonight. Pit road speed is only 45 miles an hour, so very, very slow, very tough to get down onto pit road, especially without getting a penalty here at Atlanta at the moment. So that is always a challenge, but thankfully none of these drivers did seem to get a penalty last time by when we had our green flag stops, and not when we came down onto caution A as well. So that has been looking pretty good for all the drivers at the moment, as the yellow banana is under fire from from Howie Briss, as I attempt to say his name properly again. But, then Benjamin Lacey is really showing a lot of... Now, I'm very surprised. Benjamin Lacey, one of those drivers that I can't remember. I can remember seeing up front a couple of times, but is a little bit more inconsistent from what I've seen than some of these other drivers in front. And the Gen 4 car seems to really suit him so far.
Yeah, so far the racing that we've been seeing here today, I think is almost a kind of like a leveling field for these drivers, for this entire field, as everyone's kind of, well, realistically, they're on the same playing field now. Everyone is driving the same car that may or may not be better or worse for them, depending on their driving style. And it seems to be that some drivers, like Jaden Hopp, are definitely thriving with this sort of setup. Other drivers who have already found themselves out of the race here early on, Jeffrey Fisher, Tom Mercia, Justin Krasinski, Nicholas Lovell, may not be as satisfied with this car. We may have to wait a little bit and see what their thoughts and opinions are going forward into not only next week's race, but into the rest of the season, for that to kind of develop a little bit more. Sometimes things just take a little bit longer for drivers to kind of accept and start to like a little bit. But I don't know, Gareth. I think we've kind of got a mixed bag of some drivers doing phenomenally well with this car, and other drivers that are maybe having a little bit of struggles here and there with certain aspects of the way this car handles and drives over maybe its short run speed or even a long run speed.
Yeah, I don't know how to expand on that one, because you've basically expanded on it in its entirety there. But yeah, definitely some drivers struggling a little bit with. But you know, once again, you know, this is it's a very new car, and you know, last week. So what happened basically? For those that don't know, essentially what happened was iRacing was going to release this new Gen 4 Cup car in the future, and unfortunately during testing they left the car unhinged, as I like to call it, so unlimited with its RPMs in the ARCA car, as they were testing out whether the Gen 4 car would actually be like, you know, whether it's good to go or not. And it got released mistakenly early because the ARCA car was left without the limiter put back in it, and all the drivers at when this week came out, now all the doubt looked very, very interesting there for Patrick Colby. But
Oh, it's still getting interesting.
as he's still struggling with it, get it down good. Is that Colby?
That
might
is
not be
Colby.
That is Colby. Okay. These again, with these new cars, because they're brand new, some of the paint schemes are not what they used to be, and it's a little bit of a struggle to wrap my head around them in the booth. But you know, so like I was saying, they basically iRacing accidentally released the ARCA car without its limiter put back in, which is effectively what the Gen 4 Cup car now is, which is what these drivers are in right now. And they released it about a week ago, and there was a huge pouring of support from the drivers in, well, basically on the iRacing service, saying that they absolutely love this and can they please make it a thing. And so basically iRacing decided to get it done pretty quickly, and you know, less than a week later we have the Gen 4 Cup car's been released, and the ARCA car's still there, I believe. But yeah, the Gen 4 Cup car's been released, and many drivers are very, very happy to see it come in. So they've had about a week, but that's not actually that much time, really, to get dialed in. As you can see, Corcel and Hilbrands going for a bit of a battle here. Now, Sour Patch Kids are making their way past Tony, so now Tony knows exactly what he needs to send me. It's right in front of his face, and he can get ready to do that after this race is concluded.
Absolutely, and I just realized, Garrett, too, that with the Gen 4 cars, we also have lost temporarily our roof camera and our rear view camera as well. So I'll have to get our camera guys to go ahead and put those back where they belong. I totally overlooked that, but we will go ahead and get that fixed for the next race as well, because I'm a little partial to that roof camera. It looks sweet. Anyway, point being here, we're getting a ride on board with Tony Hilbrands from the helmet camera of the number 92 driver, currently holding on to 8th place at the moment, as Nicholas Corcel is currently on the move through the field and starting to make some gains here as he works himself up into that 7th and now almost into the 6th place spot, trying to track down Benjamin Lacey and Scott Shire as they have a little bit of a battle here. Ooh, Shire into the wall as they enter into turn 3. Shire drops down to the bottom of the track here, trying to get into that draft behind Benjamin Lacey. Back to being door-to-door here as they come across the line and back into turn number 1. Shire going to be the one up on top as he's back into 5th place. But now that's going to give Corcel the opportunity to get right back in line here with Benjamin Lacey and continue the pressure here in that number 45 machine. As they come down the back straightaway, heading back into turns 3 and 4. It is lap 99 of 163 here for the 2023 Velocity Racing League Cup Series, round number 4 here at Atlanta Motor Speedway for the Hotlanta 250. For everyone who is tuning in here at the moment, for everyone that is just now joining us, welcome to the broadcast. Thank you for tuning in, and hopefully you are ready for the next 63 laps that we have here, getting ourselves ready for what will be probably, I think we're only going to see one more pit stop before the night is over, and that pit stop will be here in probably the next 20 or so laps, and after that it will be a shootout to that checkered flag. And Gareth, from what we've seen here already, things get rather dicey once pit road starts to become a factor, and with that yellow flag having come out lap 72 and kind of putting everyone at a level playing field here, what do you think is going to happen here once we get to that 120, 130 mark here here in the next 20, 30 laps?
Well, just looking at it, like you said, you know, we had people come into the pits, or most people come into the pits under that caution at about lap 72. We're 30 laps in from that. The fuel window is about 40 to 45, so if they can keep that car underneath them, they may be able to make it with one more stop. But I do think we'll have some drivers try a two-stop strategy, especially if a caution comes out. That will definitely make that a two-stop strategy, I would say. And I'm almost thinking that that may be the case due to some people trying to do the one-stop strategy and not quite being able to keep the car underneath them. I shouldn't jinx people like that, but for some reason that's how I think this one will unfold. I'm usually wrong, so take that word with a grain of salt. But you know, we've seen a lot so far, a lot of action, and not too much in the way of incidents, which has been absolutely phenomenal to see. As you can see, Michael Ashmore has come into pit road, so he is taking his tires right now, and he's going to make his way back out. So he's going to be the first, and we'll see if anyone else decides to come down and try and make a two-stop race to the end. And yeah, just a bit of a You know what? I wasn't going to announce it, but because you've announced it in chat, Mason, I'm going to call you out on it just because I can, and it's fun. I saw that, and
Everyone
that also
did.
interrupted me while I was talking as well, because it changed the audio. So I appreciate that.
I'm sorry.
And just a bit of a rib on your part. I feel that, and you know what? I'm going to have to get you back one of these days.
Oh, Gareth, I'm sorry, buddy. You know, I went to go turn off the in-car camera, and then all of a sudden, everything went black, and I was a little nervous there for a second, but luckily, fast fingers, we were able to get things back up and running here. But, ooh, excuse me. As we are approaching our next, and I would assume, again, our final pit stop of the race here, Gareth, you know, we've seen a lot of interesting racing from all of these drivers here today, and frankly, not a whole lot of close pack racing, if you will. And Atlanta isn't necessarily known for its pack racing either, so not exactly something out of the ordinary for a track such as Atlanta. But what we have seen is a lot of drivers able to really pull in some impressive positions here, able to stay in the drafts of other drivers ahead of them, able to kind of just slowly but surely reel in one another and give these sort of small challenges here and there as the race has gone on. So really not leaving a whole lot of drivers out just to hang out dry, just racing by themselves, just turning laps. Granted, there are some drivers out here that are kind of in their lonesome a little bit, not really able to work with anyone, not really able to draft with anyone at the moment, and that's not really any fault of their own. It's just sometimes you end up in that situation as a driver, and it can just feel like an eternity trying to work yourself out of that. But Gareth, I mean, feel free to call me out and say I'm wrong, but I feel like this car has done wonders for drivers. Ooh, boy, a little bit of a slip up there from James Miller, but it's done wonders for drivers to be able to just start those challenges, be able to work those challenges in, even over a long period of time, if you will.
Yeah, no, I would definitely agree with that. And you know, some people may think differently, but I actually personally prefer these cars over, you know, the next gen. Yeah, the new cars that they're using nowadays, just something about them doesn't sit right with me. I don't know what it is, but yeah, they just don't seem quite as entertaining as these things. And you know, another thing that I was going to actually talk about, which is interesting. Sorry to go off topic a little bit very quickly as well, but Tony Hilbrands has the track record here of 30.003 seconds. Now, the fastest lap time we've had so far on a car that's supposedly faster is only been, I think it's going to be, who's the fastest? I think it was Nathan Gutierrez with a 30.81, so a full 0.8 slower than Tony Hilbrand's 30.0 back in 2019. So Tony Hilbrand's certainly no stranger to going fast, but again, these are the Gen 4 cars. They're a different car, and even though they may be faster in a straight line, perhaps not handling the draft quite as well, as that's something I just realized we haven't really talked about too much, as potentially the draft is not as powerful on these cars. I know they are meant to have very similar bodies, but with a unhinged sort of attitude, without being able to have that limited amount of revs, I almost wonder if it's harder to catch up to the guy in front and make that move.
You know, Gareth, and I think you are right in that regard here as well. It definitely takes a lot more time to catch up to that draft, and it's definitely a lot easier to lose that draft here as well. But it's almost kind of like a balancing act here that we've seen a lot of, and we're getting a good look on the right-hand side of your screen with Michael Keithley in the number 53, chasing along with James Coulibaly in the number 22. Gare Bear is the best TGS vocalist from Ray Aguilar in the chat. Gareth, you have that lovely Aussie accent that's just wooing our fans at the moment. But yeah, Gareth, I think we've definitely seen a lot of interesting developments over the course of this race with just how these drivers are able to draft with one another, or maybe unable to draft with one another, and how these guys can kind of get left out in certain situations depending on where they are on the track and just what line they're preferring to take at that point in the race.
Yeah, well, see, from my perspective, you guys all have the accent, so, you know, just like to put that out there. But, yeah.
You know, Gareth, that's a fair point.
Yeah. So, Scott Shire and Howie Briss continue to be side by side, and this race is looking pretty good. And, you know, I don't even have that thick an accent. I just want to come back. I don't even have that thick an accent. Like,
he took that personally.
I do not live in, like, so I do not live in, like, you know how you guys would have, like, the North and the South has thicker accents in America?
Yeah.
Well, for us, it's like the West has more of an accent. I live on the east side of Oz. So, you know, I don't know where I'm going with that, but basically, it's not as thick an accent as you would probably expect. But regardless, we shouldn't even be talking about this. So, yeah, Howie Briss has made his way past Scott Shire now, and Nicholas Corsell has been the biggest mover of the race so far, and I've been very impressed to see that Sour Patch Kids machine up there. James Miller also just in the background. He has been making his way through the field as well, trying to make his way back up from being involved in that first caution incident. So he's made his way all the way back up into 7th place, and right behind this battle for 5th, or battle for 4th, excuse me, with Scott Shire and Howie Briss just up front. But we're starting to see some different drivers come into the pit lane now, as I believe Koulibaly's just come out, Charles Jurek has just come out, Hilbrands has gone to pit, Tamer, Sewell is just coming out of pit road as well. So a caution right now would really shake things up in the field. And looking racy enough to potentially have one if we go back to Scott Shire and Howie Briss continuing to have quite the big race unfolding at the moment.
Yeah, at the moment, Shire leading the pack of drivers around him at the moment with Howie Briss, Nicholas Corsell, and James Miller. But we've got drivers also working their way down into pit road, grabbing tires, fuel, and all of the other necessities that a race car driver needs to be successful, as Shire loses it across the commitment line here, heading into pit road and having to recorrect himself back into the right direction. And that is going to cost Shire quite a bit of time down here in pit road, in quite a few positions, I think, here as well. A critical error to make as a driver, but one that is also so easy to make in situations like this, where tension is high, the excitement is high, and everything is just, it comes down to the wire here at this point in the race, Gareth.
Oh, well, you're going from, you know, near as, you know, 170, 180 miles an hour in the corner, and you got to back it down to 45. You know, you jump on those brakes a little bit too hard for a little bit too long, and I don't know how many times I've done the exact same thing that was unfortunately taken Shire out of the battle that he was in for the 4th position. But, you know, I don't know how many times I've done that exact thing, and it's not a great feeling, let's put it that way. As we see some more cars coming down pit road. Corsell is coming out of pit road. Lacey's just come in from being in the top spot, so Lacey was the last driver on pit road, staying out till about lap 120. So Lacey could actually, if Benjamin Lacey manages to basically hold that fuel all the way through, there is a solid chance that Lacey may be in a very good spot to take it home here tonight, just on strategy, which at the moment, speaking of strategy, Tony Hilbrands has the lead after coming in and pitting about 5 laps ahead of Aaron Smith and Jaden Hopp just behind.
Yeah, Gareth, and I was just looking at that as well and wondering to myself, is that going to pay off here for Hilbrands in the number 92? As you know, we've seen just how difficult these cars can be to drive on worn tires, as well as being light on fuel. Gareth, I can't imagine that Tony is gonna want to have those extra few laps in addition to our expected pit windows here. I think he's going to be cutting it very, very close here in that 92, but currently holding on to the lead. He's going to try and build up a gap here between himself and the rest of the pack. But meanwhile, back in 6th place, we have a battle between James Miller and Jason Tamer, as Miller works his way around the number 62 machine and up into 6th place. Not really a big fight between these two. Tamer giving him plenty of room to work with here as we come across actually heading out turn number 2 and onto the back straightaway here on lap 123 of 163 here for the Hotlanta 250 here with Velocity Racing League for the 2023 Cup Series. It has been phenomenal racing here today, folks. I hope you all have been enjoying the race so far. It has been a great day of racing here at Atlanta. And Gareth, I mean, I don't think we could have asked for a better day of racing with brand new cars, and I wish I could say a brand new track, but I think that would just be asking for a little bit too much here. But either way, either how, the action is still fantastic, and starting to see Jaden Hopp actually work his way to the tail of the number 92 of Tony Hilbrands here in for the lead.
Yeah, Jaden Hopp is showing incredible pace at the moment, has really made that gap up in front of, once past Aaron Smith, has really made that gap further in front. And you know, Tony Hilbrands, I'm sure Jaden Hopp knows this as well, but Tony Hilbrands has come in quite a bit earlier, and Hilbrands at this point has to come down one more time. It's going to be on the edge whether Jaden Hopp and Aaron Smith have to come down once more as well. Of course, a caution will always throw a spanner into the works for that one and definitely make it so that everyone has to. So I'd say that in the event of a caution, Tony Hilbrands is probably in the perfect position to stay out there as long as possible, and he'll be up front for a restart should one occur. So that's probably no G, as Aaron Smith has to really avoid getting into the back of Tony Hilbrands there. That was very dicey indeed, as Tony was also on struggle street with those rear tires. But thankfully, nothing much doing apart from Aaron's pride and a little bit of a wall scrape on the right-hand side of that yellow banana. But that 70 machine still looking racy and trying to claw his way back up to Jaden Hopp, who has really run away with the lead at the moment in this run.
Yeah, and it is looking promising here for the 81 driver of Jaden Hopp, as he continues to pull a little bit of a gap here between himself and Aaron Smith. And looking at timing and scoring, it looks like he's got the pace to outpace Aaron Smith at the moment. That was great English there. But anyway, Jaden doing a very good job of staying consistent and just a little bit faster. Almost, I would say, probably a 10th faster, but only by a little bit here than Aaron Smith. I mean, we could take a look here at the tower at the moment, and you can see the gap, the difference between Jaden Hopp and Aaron Smith, and you can just see how ever so slightly it changes between these two drivers at the moment. So Jaden Hopp doing absolutely tremendous in maintaining his lead at the moment, and I don't think Jaden is going to have too many issues fending off Aaron Smith. We've seen these two drivers battle it out before, and I think Jaden knows just what to do with Aaron here in these, well, what will be, I think, going to be 34 laps once we cross the checkered line here. So Jaden doesn't have a whole lot of time left here before he sees that checkered flag, and all he's got to do is just keep that lean, mean yellow banana in his rear view. And again, I don't think he's going to have too much of a struggle with doing that here tonight.
Jaden Hopp is one of those drivers that is looking absolutely masterful with his racecraft right now with the Gen 4 car, as that got very close in front of Charles Jurek. That was That was very, very close indeed. Tony Hilbrands has come down pit road one more time as Jurek goes for a bit of a spin, checks it up, trying to avoid that inside wall. Does so. Great job from him. And that's... Oh, that is absolutely astounding, as the closest battle on track right now is going to be Aaron Smith and Jaden Hopp, but not too far behind is another close battle between Keithley and Corsell, which is at the top of the screen, and Jaden Hopp and Aaron Smith at the bottom of the screen. I do love this picture-in-picture. It really does put a great perspective on things, so we can see multiple battles without having to go from one to the other and missing some of the action here tonight. So it's great to see as Corsell makes the move up at the top of your screen against Michael Keithley, and they're going to go side by side down the back straight.
Side by side, nearly door to door, still a little bit of distance between those two, but it looks like Corsell going to be the one out on top of this battle here, as Corsell starts to build up a little bit of distance between himself and the 53 driver as they come out of turn 4 and across the checkered line here, bringing us lap 133 of 63. 30 laps left to go here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. It has been a long night for these drivers, but still a few more laps to go before things are all said and done here. Still a little bit of time left to go for things to happen for any one of these drivers, and I think at the moment, the driver that is under the most pressure at the moment is Jaden Hopp in that number 81 machine, having to do everything in his power to keep that number 70 machine behind him here as we're taking a look out the rear bumper camera of the number 81 machine. Not exactly my favorite view, but it'll have to do for this purpose at the moment, as I just want to get a little bit of a different perspective of the battle for the lead at the moment, as currently it is the only and closest battle on the track at the moment.
Yeah, well, it's still a good perspective, even if it's not the perfect one that we wanted, because it does show you a good idea of just how big that gap is. And, you know, it may say, I mean, 2/10 isn't exactly a huge gap anyway, but it may say 2/10, but it doesn't feel like 2/10. It feels like you're right on the bumper of that car in front. And, you know, these Gen 4 cars, just like the ARCA cars, that nose is slanted in such a way and the rear bumper is so high up that you can actually put that nose directly underneath the rear bumper of the car in front and actually lift them up on off the ground. Not trying to give anyone any ideas, but yeah, that is something that can be done. So you can get very, very close. And Aaron Smith just seems to have a little bit more of a drive through the corners. Getting into them, Hopp seems a little bit stronger, but on the exit, Aaron Smith is really making up his time, and just seems like he's got a little bit more of a grip with this car at the moment. And Jaden Hopp maybe apexing just a slight bit too early, but they're both using all of the track, and this is getting very, very heated with less than, well, I'd say, what is that, 25 to go. I can math.
You know, sometimes math isn't exactly our strongest suit here up in the commentator's booth, but we make it work sometimes. And currently looking at the side-by-side view of Jaden Hopp and Aaron Smith on the left-hand side of your screen, as well as James Miller and Jason Tamer on the right-hand side of your screen. The battle for the lead on the left, the battle for 5th place happening on the right-hand side of your screen, as Tamer a little bit loose there coming out of turn number 2 on the back straightaway, but quickly recovering that here as we are 25 laps left to go as Jaden Hopp comes across the line, bringing us that 25 laps left to go up on the top left-hand side of our screen. So it is official, only a little bit of time left to go here, and with drivers clicking off lap times of about 32 seconds, that you can do the math from there. It is going to dwindle down very quickly here for these drivers. So anyone that is looking to try and make up positions here, try and make any last-minute battles happen, now is the time to do it, and it is going to happen right before our very eyes here. Folks, stay tuned. Don't go anywhere, because it is going to happen right here in the next few laps. And we are going to be right here to bring you the action. And for everyone who has tuned in, whether it is you are returning, checking in on the action, or whether you are just now tuning in, thank you everyone who has tuned in here today and has been watching the action, joining us in the comments section and chatting with us here throughout this broadcast. Oh, contact though, and here comes the yellow flag as, whoa, a little preemptive here as well, Gareth. The number 7 gets all the way sideways with Jason Tamer causing it, and the yellow flag flies before anything can even happen. Gareth, I mean, I can't blame race control for making this call, but wow, that seemed, I don't know. What do you think, Gareth? What would be your call on that situation?
Well, I'm basically stunned into silence, and I know that the viewers at home can't see my face right now, but I tell ya, I genuinely am just absolutely shocked that both of those cars didn't get wrecked. Like, both of them are pointed in the right direction. That save was absolutely incredible by Benjamin Lacey. I don't know how Benjamin managed to keep that car underneath him. I'm in awe. That's incredible. As Tamer got into the rear end, and I would have lost it probably 10 times, if that's even possible. Like, I can't blame race control. Like you said, you know, race control's got to make that call pretty quick, and most other drivers, and I can say that, most other drivers would have lost it there completely. Benjamin Lacey, somehow, I've got no idea. And kudos to Tamer as well for not, you know, hammering on the throttle and trying to get around, you know, breaking it down and trying to make sure that everything gets done, as it looks like Smith almost got a little bit too far in his box there. Thankfully, not quite, though, as him and Hop are very close together. Hop's service is going to get done a little bit earlier. It's going to be a race off pit road. Hop's going to get it done, and Hop's going to take the lead. I believe Hop actually came in leading, but regardless, that was an exciting race off pit road, whether I called it entirely right or not.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Gareth. I think this is just going to set things up for an even more exciting finish for tonight's race. 21 laps left to go. It will be approximately, I think, 19 laps left to go once we actually come back to green flag here. And if anyone from SDK is listening to this broadcast and is watching this broadcast and can hear my voice right now, I plead with you, I implore to you, please give us a counter in SDK that shows us commentators how many laps are left before we go back to green. Thank you. Anyway, Gareth, Jaden Hopp, Aaron Smith going to be up in the front row, with Howie Briss and Sean Williams taking up the second row, and James Miller and Benjamin Lacey going to be in our third row. So with Jaden Hopp once again starting up in the front here, and Gareth, like I was talking about just a little bit ago, I don't think Jaden really is going to have too much to worry about here with Aaron. He does a very good job of defending and holding his own, and from what we've seen in the past out of Jaden, he's got very good short run speed here, and with only 20 laps to go in this race, I really think he's going to have this one in the bag here, unless Aaron has some tricks up his sleeve that we just have yet to see. But I don't think there's really anything that Aaron can do in these final 20 laps other than just try and outdrive Jaden here. But Jaden has looked extremely consistent. I'm just not sure what's going to happen here in these final few laps.
Yeah, you're exactly right though. Jaden Hopp has not made I don't think he's put a foot wrong this entire race so far, and I don't want to give the commentator's curse, as Dawn Hillbrands has already told me that I did put the commentator's curse, because I did say that you could put the bumper underneath the rear of another car, and sure enough, that's pretty much exactly what happened. So thank you for letting me know that, Dawn. I really appreciate that, and once again, I have caused I am the reason why there's a caution that has come out, but You know, I'll take that in stride. That was my fault, commentator's curse, and you know it's you know what? Some of these drivers would have really appreciated that yellow flag. So I'm going to take that as, you know, not entirely bad, but and also I also got to point out that Benjamin Lacey is sitting in the 6th place position. Like I don't I and Tamers hasn't fallen back far either from that incident. I mean, they're sitting in 8th position. So these two really, I mean, when you think about it, that's the best caution I could have given them.
I think all in all, I think it worked out fairly well for everyone involved in that one. But as we come into turn number 3, we're going to come out of 4, and that pace car will drop down into pit road, and we will see the green flag drop here once again for what we assume will be the last time here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. And there he goes, pace car down into pit road, entering into the Geico restart zone, and away we go once again for the last time here for the Hotlanta 250 for the 2023 Velocity Racing League Cup Series as we head ourselves into turn number 1 out of 2 and onto the back straightaway, taking a look from the blimp camera here at Atlanta. Seeing all the field getting side by side as they come down the back straightaway, seeing multiple drivers almost door to door with one another here. We can also see drivers up ahead trying to make up positions as we see Aaron Smith and Sean Williams nearly side by side for second place up in the top 3 at the moment as more battles continue to happen throughout the track.
Oh, absolutely. There's just battles galore, and we got a third caution that's just come out. We've missed entirely what for, but I'm sure there's valid reason, as there always is whenever a caution's come out. And there it is, the 56 once again involved in an incident, was involved in the first incident we had as well. Oh no, takes out Tony, takes out Sewell. Oh, I said 56, not the 56. I think it's got a 6 and an 8 there, so I don't know how
69, that's Matthew Fitz.
That is Matthew Fitz. Okay, good.
Well, let's back things up here.
I think I gotta get my eyes checked, Mason. I don't know what's going on. I'm missing all the numbers.
Well, as we are coming, oh boy, right so back into Hillbrands.
Yeah, that looked like Koulibaly. Sorry to interrupt, Mason, but that looked like Koulibaly didn't realize that they were 3 wide because I think, or got into the wall slightly because he came off a little bit. Yeah, he came off a little bit further down, and that's just, yeah, that's unfortunate. That's a tough break for all drivers involved.
Tough break indeed, and yet another restart that these drivers will have to endure with 15 laps left to go. Luckily for Jaden Hopp and for Aaron Smith, these two drivers are pretty familiar with restarts. They are very, very confident here with these restarts. So I don't think these two are going to have any issues. Sean Williams as well up here in the top 3. Benjamin Lacey, the number 7 machine, going to be up here in the top 4 as well, along with James Miller in that 3rd row, or excuse me, along with Sean Williams in the 2nd row, and James Miller and Howie Briss in the 3rd row. So
there you go,
Gareth. I mean, as things start to heat up more and more in these final 15 laps, I mean, really this last caution wasn't necessarily the fault of drivers just being too aggressive. It was really just ultimately a racing incident at the end of the day. But I think at this point in the race, tensions are definitely going to be high. Everyone is definitely wanting to secure more positions. I think everyone's just eager at this point to well, one, wrap this up, but as well as to take advantage of this opportunity to gain 2-3 positions, if at all possible.
Yeah, well, I mean, we did have 3 wide action, and you know, whenever you go 3 wide anywhere, it's certainly a bold move. So, like you said, just a bit of a racing incident. People, like, you know, I mean, people, we're getting towards the end of this race. People trying to get all the points they can, like you said, and that kind of racing just sometimes unfolds, and there's not a whole lot we can do about it. But I you know what? One thing I will say, because I've been waiting to say this all night since he started ring up for the front. But you know how it's called the Hotlanta 250. It should be the Hoplanta 250. Aha. Because Jaden hops out front.
Oh, Gareth. I think all of our viewers are gonna have some thoughts on that one. Lisa might like that one.
I love me some dad jokes, you know. Not a dad myself, but I got the humor of one. Don't worry about it.
That's fine. Sometimes it just rubs off.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
you know, my favorite dad joke. Oh, should I just give my favorite dad joke? All right. So I've said this already a few times. So if you've heard it, I'm sorry, Mason. But how does the moon cut his hair? Eclipse it.
Oh my god.
But just.
I hope you're reading the chat, Gareth.
Yeah, I should probably stop before everyone starts boycotting.
Oh my gosh. Well, that was that was puns with Gareth Hour. As we get ready to go back to racing here down the back straightaway. Lights are off on the pace car here, folks. It's 13 laps. It'll be 12 laps to go once we come across the line here. But as we are just awaiting for the pace car to make its way through 3 and 4 here and down into pit road here once again for what we hope will be the last time, at least for the sake of the drivers here. I mean, me and Gareth, we can be here all night. Maybe not literally, but figuratively at least. But waiting for that pace car to make its way down into pit road, and away we go as we come into the Geico restart zone here once again, and the green flag drops one more time here for the Hotlanta 250 with Velocity Racing League in the 2023 Cup Series as the action goes back to green. 3-wide action here between Nicholas Corcel, Charles Jurek, and Jason Tamer.
Yeah, Jason Tamer on the inside of Jurek, well, on the inside of both cars, or the inside and the outside, sorry, of Corcel. On the outside of Corcel and the inside of Jurek, and that is very dicey place to be as Tamer got very, very high and almost got to Jurek on the outside line. Corcel's going to take that spot away from the both of them, but not have the run as he checks up a little bit in front of Tamer, and Tamer is running Jurek right up against the wall, as Tamer does like that high side, and there is the wall touch that we were expecting as they fan out to avoid Jurek, and thankfully managed to get around him, no issues or woes. So great job there from the drivers to avoid that situation, as Corcel and Tamer have got that through and made that pass now. But we've got a bit of a battle going on, I believe. Oh, I just realized Aaron Smith has just made the fastest lap of the race so far at a 30.7. And we got a little bit more of a bobble. I believe that's back in 5th place with James Miller as well. Had a little bit of an awkward sort of a moment as he's now very high on the outside of Michael Keithley, and Scott Shire goes to the inside now as those two continue to battle right behind. Scott Shire is still on the low side, 9 laps left to go. The 53 machine keeping that 4 pinned to the inside. And we're fanning out just a little bit. Jurek still struggling with his car as he's fanned out to the bottom, but checks back up into line. And this battle continues, Mason.
Great racing, great battles here as we enter into the final 8 laps of today's race. And Don Hilbrand's asking in the chat, is the number 92 out? No, he is not, Don. Tony is still in the race here, but he has just fallen back a little bit further than what he'd probably like to be at the moment. Actually, at just about 6.5 seconds right now, separating himself and the rest of the pack here. So not a great restart here for the number 92 machine, but Tony's doing everything that he can to keep himself in the action regardless of that. But right now we're looking at the string of drivers here for 7th place at the moment, or around 7th place I should say. In on the bottom right hand side of your screen, you can see the in-car camera view of the number 70 of Aaron Smith here, as actually battle for the lead begins to happen here side by side for these two drivers. 7 laps left to go here as we come out of turn number 4 across the checkered line here, bringing us 6 laps left to go here at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Smith down on the inside as we approach turn number 1. Hop gonna be up in the middle lane, gonna stay right on this side, only a few feet separating the doors of these two drivers as they come onto the back straightaway. Aaron Smith giving them a good amount of room here as they come into turn number 3. Hop gonna try and stay with them as close as he possibly can here. Not a whole lot of separation between these two in pace. They're gonna stay right on the edge of one another. Hop almost clipping the wall coming out of 4. And they come across the line here once again, continuing the battle for the lead.
Oh yeah, with 5 laps left to go, neither of these drivers are giving each other an inch of room. This is absolutely incredible as Hop looks to be having a better run out of 2 and does get the position back. So Smith is left wanting, and he's going to try something else as he goes high now, and he's going to make Jaden work the bottom. It's going to be interesting to see if Jaden can work the bottom as well as he has the top. We've seen a lot of pace from the high side of Jaden Hop's 81 machine. Not so much. Oh, goes up to block Aaron Smith's run on the high side. Probably the best idea Jaden Hop could have had in that moment, as he seems to be stronger on the high side as well. Aaron Smith is really looking forward to making that move as Hop goes to the inside of 3 and 4. Coming out of 4, Hop's definitely got the run, but Smith will have a lot of pace heading out into turn 1. It's not going to be enough though, as Jaden Hop has run away with it for the moment, but I'm sure he is not keeping his eyes he's not keeping his eyes in front of him for too much longer as he continues to look in that rear windscreen.
Yeah, absolutely. Jaden Hop is just focused on getting through these next few laps, and frankly, not a whole lot of laps left to go here, as it's 3 laps left to go. It'll be 2 as we come out of turn number 4 here and across the checkered line. And let's see here, we can bring this out here, but we're taking a ride on board here with Aaron Smith in that number 70 machine, just getting a lap on board here. Just gonna see what he's gonna try and do with these last 2 laps left to go. Once we come across the line here this next time by, the white flag will fly, and it will be the last time, the last chance to dance here for these drivers. And Aaron Smith, I think at this moment he probably knows that he's not going to be able to track down Jaden Hop here at this moment, and is going to have to just do the best that he can. Well, really just take this one last lap and take that podium spot, but also going to have to worry about Benjamin Lacey here, as Lacey down on the inside, coming out of turn number 2 onto the back straightaway. Aaron Smith getting mighty comfortable there on that high lane. Gonna see if he's gonna shut it out this time by. He does, and that's going to pretty much round out our top 3 here as they come across the checkered line. And Jaden Hop securing his first win. Oh! And Aaron Smith slides it across the line, but Jaden Hop coming home with his second win, of the season. Back-to-back wins last week at USA International, and this week here tonight at Atlanta Motor Speedway. Howie Briss securing that 4th place spot. Scott Shire and Michael Keithley coming in that 5th and 6th place spot here as our field comes across the line and finishes out today's race. Gareth, what a phenomenal event that we had here tonight.
Well, I want to talk about that finish some more, because Aaron Smith, I don't know exactly what happened, but I'm going to assume from what we could see that Aaron Smith got very loose coming out of 4, and Lacey was there ready to pounce, and Smith just barely managed to keep it down, started coming up the racetrack, and Lacey only just missed out from that 2nd place position by 0.02 of a second. It was so close, and yeah, there you go. There's how loose Aaron Smith was, trying to use that wall to keep the car underneath him as the 70 machine goes for more and more bobbles. Lacey was just right there trying to get around, and oh so close. Oh, you cannot get much closer than that, ladies and gentlemen, as Aaron Smith has just barely managed to hold on to that second place spot. I mean, that's, you know what that is? We were talking about cars earlier today. That's when Lightning McQueen sticks his tongue out to be able to to be able to get the chance to race in the top 3 race at the end of the movie. So, and yeah, that Aaron Smith, I mean, you can't talk about much more luck than that, being able to bring it home just in front of Benjamin Lacey there at the end. But great racing from all of these drivers, and I cannot wait to hear what they say in the interviews.
Absolutely, as we are going to go ahead and get ourselves ready for post-race interviews here. The first driver going to be up in the booth here today, taking home that third place spot here, Benjamin Lacey. Going to be the first driver up here in the booth. Benjamin, welcome to the booth. Congratulations on your third place finish here today. Benjamin, what a fantastic race that we had here today, and a good race for yourself in the number 7 machine, able to secure a podium and also being the biggest mover and shaker in the field by far, having moved yourself up 17 positions from where you started at the beginning of today's race. And if I'm not mistaken here, it is also going to be your very first podium of the season here. So Benjamin, I mean, how are you feeling right now, and what's kind of going through your head after this phenomenal finish that you had here tonight? Benjamin, we cannot hear you at the moment.
Check, you guys got me now? Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Oh, there we go. There we go. For some reason my push to talk wasn't working, so I just switched that off real quick. But yeah, answer the question. I don't feel like I deserved a third place. I didn't feel like I had that type of speed. But exciting finish there for between Aaron and I. I saw him getting loose. I was going to go underneath him, and then he came back down. So I moved, diverted, and went back up the top. And I think he just got me by maybe half a tenth, if that. So super fun, but you know, fun race overall. These cars are a blast, man.
Absolutely, and given that this is kind of the really the first day of the Gen 4 cars being out on the iRacing service, and being this is kind of an unexpected podium for yourself, do you think the two are kind of connected with one another? What was kind of your experience with driving this car today, and do you think it had any major differences as compared to the old ARCA that we are used to seeing on these broadcasts and in these races?
Definitely a lot more diligent on the throttle for sure, because you got so much more horsepower in these things. So they pick up and go. Even on the straightaway, if you just kind of smash the gas down, you're gonna spin the tires in fourth gear there, running at speed. So you got to be really, really careful with that, and really kind of hit your marks on the corner entry. You really kind of have to drive them pretty well, and I kind of separates out the field a little bit of people who are able to do that well, and those who have some practice to do with it. But overall it's a strong field, and a lot of the guys out here knew how to do that, and made for a lot of good fun racing.
Absolutely. Well, Benjamin, given that tonight was your second race of the season, do you hope to come back next week for the next race at North Wilkesboro and hope to accomplish the same, if not similar, results? Or what do you kind of hope to accomplish here either next week or in the next coming weeks?
No, obviously you always go for the win. And going for the win, why be out there on the track? So that's going to be the goal, is to get the win. But you finish where you end up finishing, and you gotta build off the momentum that you got. So P3 today is good, and hopefully we can get the win next weekend. But it's gonna be tough with some of the drivers in here. They're all pretty fast. I know Aaron's pretty fast. Jaden's obviously fast. Howie. Tony, a couple other guys are quick, so going to be kind of maybe those who keep the car clean next week and can survive.
Absolutely. Well, I think you might be one of those drivers here, as we've saw a great performance out of the number 7 and a lot of other drivers here as well who are getting to experience this quote-unquote new car for the first time. But Benjamin, before we get to let you go here and celebrate with your teammates, fellow drivers, so on and so forth, anyone watching the broadcast, anyone at home or in the pit crew that you want to shout out and thank before you go here tonight?
Yeah, I actually got a sponsor in the car called Filming the Wild. Check them out on YouTube, youtube.com/filmingthewild. They do some, behind the scenes footage of, how wildlife documentaries and stuff are kind of filmed. And then they have some of their own original shorts and things on there as well. They do have some stuff that's actually out with Nat Geo on Disney Plus with, there's a Supernova or something like that, with some burrowing owls on there. So check that out on there. Give them a shout out. And then obviously you guys here in the broadcast booth, appreciate what you guys do, and Tony and all the admins of the league here, appreciate it.
Absolutely. I'll definitely have to check that out. I'm always a sucker for nature documentaries, so I'll give that a check out, Benjamin. Thank you for joining us up here in the booth, and I look forward to seeing you next week, and hopefully we get to talk to you again in a similar capacity.
Likewise. Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Have a great night. Alrighty, folks, that was Benjamin Lacey, our third-place driver, taking it out of the booth here tonight, claiming his third-place spot on the podium. Up next, Gareth McAllister going to take the interview here with Aaron Smith as he takes home his second-place spot on the podium here today. Gareth, passing it on to you.
Yeah, well, g'day, Aaron. How are you feeling after today's race?
I'm pretty tired. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, well, I mean, it certainly was fun to call. You seem to have a few different bobbles that I'm very interested in. First of all, you had this huge gap. I want to say it was on the third caution. It wasn't the very last one, but it was one before that. You had this huge gap in the lead, and we almost forgot you existed because you were so far out in front. But then within a couple of laps, you must have had a bobble or something, and you found yourself falling back into about the third or fourth place. What happened there?
Yeah, I wanted to fall back to save my tires, because the tire wear definitely meant a lot over the course of the long run. But unfortunately, the race didn't come down to a long run where I was so strong, but it was pretty fun nonetheless.
All right, well, I mean, another one, I have to acknowledge the elephant in the room at some point, so better now than never for sure. That final corner, I mean, you ended up beating Benjamin by 0.02 of a second. And we watched that back, and I don't know how you kept onto that car, let alone managing to take away that second place spot.
Yeah, I didn't mean to hit him there coming to the line. I was just trying to get as much as I could out of it there out of the last corner. After the first few laps of that run, there wasn't much I could have done with Jaden up at the front. Once he figured out the outside was the place to be, I couldn't really do anything on the bottom. But yeah, I got the back end a little further out than I wanted it to, and caught it on the wall, and then just had to kind of weave the wheel, try to keep the car as straight as I could before the line. Unfortunately, I went and hit Benjamin there, but it was a clean race up until then.
Well, I tell you, one last thing. You were running the bottom line a lot more consistently and a lot faster than some of the other drivers who chose to move further up the track towards the end of the run. You were trying something. Was that just to try and get around Jaden Hopp before the caution came out, or were you really that strong on the bottom that you decided that was the best place to be and it just didn't quite work out for you?
Yeah, you could save the most tires down there, and the difference between Jaden and I at the end of that last long run was pretty considerate there, or considerable rather. But just waited a little too long to get around him, and unfortunately that kind of changed the outcome of the race here for me. So I'll learn from that, and I'll jump on the opportunity when I get it as soon as I can next time.
All right, well, sounds good, Aaron. I'm sure we'll see you up here in the booth again. I have no doubt actually that we'll see you up here in the booth again. And who any friends, family, sponsors watching tonight that you'd like to shout out for this second place finish here?
Yeah, I'd like to thank everyone at the Velocity Racing League for putting the show on, y'all broadcasting, all the folks watching. Looking forward to getting back at it in North Wilkesboro.
All right, well, we will definitely see you there next week, and have a good week, and we'll have a good week, and we'll see you there. It's essentially what I'm going with.
Alrighty, folks. Aaron
Right, I was
Smith.
on, I was on Struggle Street at the end of that one.
Oh, well, Aaron Smith taking it out of the booth here after a little bit of a chaotic ending with Gareth. But we're going to go ahead and end off our interviews here. Rounding out our interviews with Jaden Hopp, the number 81 machine, coming home with the win here tonight for the second time in a row here in the 2023 season. Jaden, how does it feel to be a two-time back-to-back winner here in the early happenings of the 2023 season?
It feels pretty great, thank you. It was fun a blast having that whole battle with Aaron through like the whole race.
It was a phenomenal battle to watch here towards the end, and it was just, honestly, it was nail-biting watching you two duke it out here towards the end of the race here, and frankly, it was amazing watching you fend off the number 70 driver and just maintain your composure throughout the whole race and staying so consistent. That was the key for this race here today, and Aaron Smith said it himself in his interview just a little bit ago that he really could not match your pace on that outside line. You just had that line down to a T, and you were just executing it perfectly every single time. And that I think that definitely played into your success here tonight. But Jaden, I gotta ask you, because I've asked the other driver that I talked to, Benjamin Lacey, to start off our interviews, what was it like handling this car here today? This is the first day that the Gen 4 car has been on the iRacing service, and I just kind of want to get your input on it. How did it feel for you? How did it handle for you? And do you think it's better or worse than what we had before with the old ARCA?
Oh, I think it was much better. It was definitely a handful, especially getting out of the corners, but it was much better.
And looking forward into next week at North Wilkesboro, do you expect to see similar results? Do you expect it to be a little bit more challenging for you there, given that last week we were at USA International, heading next week back to some more short track racing at North Wilkesboro? What are you hoping to accomplish there?
I'm decent, I'd say, at North Wilkesboro, so I'm just hoping for like a good top 5 and hopefully stay out of some of the short track shenanigans.
Absolutely. Well, Jaden, before I let you go here and do your celebrating with your teammates, drivers, you know the works. Anyone you want to shout out and thank before you go here tonight, the floor is yours, my friend.
As always, I'd like to thank you guys for putting on a great broadcast and Tony for putting on a good week. And I'd like to shout out my family again this week, my mom and grandma.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us up here in the booth tonight, Jaden. It was a pleasure to have you. Great to see you out winning yet another race here in the 2023 season, and hopefully we get to see that success carry forward into next week, and hopefully get to talk to you again on the podium next week.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Have a great night, Jaden. Alrighty, folks, that is going to conclude our post-race interviews for the night here today, and also conclude our coverage of today's events. Folks, I hope you all enjoyed what you saw here today, and Gareth, I mean, we had a phenomenal night of racing, and I look forward to what we're going to see next week at North Wilkesboro. I mean, what are your thoughts on tonight's race, and what are you hoping to see next week?
Well, I am hoping to see very similar racing to what we saw tonight, because tonight was great racing. I actually think we'll have a little bit more action actually heading into North Wilkesboro, because North Wilkesboro is a kind of a little bit of an oddly shaped track, but once again a very, very nice one. You know, it was one of the first tracks they had on the NASCAR calendar. I believe it was part of the original NASCAR racing circuit, like where they would go to all these different tracks. So it's been around for a very, very long time, and it should be interesting to see how these much higher horsepowered vehicles manage on that very small track.
Absolutely, and if I recall correctly here as well, North Wilkesboro is actually being renovated as well as we speak. It's actually being brought back to life, and there is a corporation that is putting a ton of work, a ton of money into that racetrack to bring it back to life and to bring racing back to North Carolina to North Wilkesboro. So it's really, really great to see that happening, and I look forward to bringing back the racing in a virtual setting next week as we get ready to kick off the racing there again. Same time, same place, same channel, right here on Team Goon Squad. Thank you for everyone who has tuned in here tonight. Thank you for all the support that all of you have given us, and for all the likes, all the subscriptions, all that fancy stuff. But if you haven't subscribed, if you haven't liked the broadcast already, make sure you do so and catch all the action that we have here on Team Goon Squad 7 nights a week, or close to it. Pretty darn close to it, actually, I might say. But for now, that is going to wrap up our coverage here of the Hotlanta 250 for the Velocity Racing League Cup Series here in 2023. Thank you all once again for tuning in and watching here tonight, and I look forward to seeing you all next week, same time and same place. On behalf of myself and Gareth McAllister, and with Team Goon Squad, thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next week.